All right, we here, we live in effect. Well, welcome back. Fatherhood Think Tank. I know we missed last week, but things happen and sometimes we got to get back on course. So we're back here again for another episode of interesting conversation, dialogue, new ideas, and thoughtful man talk. Think tank. So we're gonna jump right into this tonight. Things happen, and sometimes we gotta get back on course. So we're back here again for another episode of interesting conversation, dialogue, new ideas, and thoughtful. So I'm Ron Christopher Osborne Williams, the host, whatever kind of great idea, whatever thing it is that people like to make. As long as we get this thing going, that's all I care about. Copyright infringements, man, come on here with the. So I'm gonna let the other fathers introduce themselves before we talk about the topic. When they finish, I'm gonna play a video and then we're gonna go into our conversation. So welcome again to Fatherhood Think Tank. Fathers, who's out there?
Hey, good evening. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of 7 young adults, 4 young men, 3 young women, my granddaughter. And you know what? I'm always leaving out, but she's talking about this tonight's topic, a beautiful wife of 17 years, 21 years together. So that's me.
All right, good evening. My name is Larry Jordan, father of 2, grandfather of 1. Just great to be here. Tonight I will be the gray-haired assassin.
I love it. I love it.
Good evening, everybody. J. Rob Bernard, father of 2 young adults. Not as eloquent and fancy as LJ and Lionel there, but you know, we'll make it happen.
Okay, good evening, fathers. I'm a father of 2 young adults myself. As usual, it's a pleasure being here with other gentlemen to share such wisdom with about being a father and working together as a team to make the world a better place. Thank you. Name is Rohan Roddock.
I guess I'm the last of the bunch. I'm Justin Gibbs. I'm a father of 5, and it's just always great to be here with you gentlemen, per usual.
And you the baby of the bunch.
And I am the baby of the bunch. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
And so we do got a, they call it not even a millennial, but we have a Gen Z in the house. So you definitely got to represent that perspective and that voice.
Right.
Say it any better.
All right, so gentlemen, tonight our topic is tough love. And one of the first things I want to kind of like jump in there with in the idea of tough love is I want to show a video, and I want to kind of get your reaction from the video from the Jump Street. It always happens to me.
We're patient.
Oh, thank you, Rohan. It means a lot that you can be patient. I know how impatient.
See, this is where a good sponsorship break could come in at. We'll be back after these breaks.
I know how impatient the good people of the Windward Islands can be. All right, so let me get this set up. This is Pastor Keon, and he's talking a little bit about the topic we're talking tonight, and I think it's important when we almost kind of talk about this in many instances to look at this in the way that we are as fathers, in the way we, parent different than mothers. So let me just start this video and let's see what he has to say.
Let me tell you something, daddy love and mama love ain't the same. Your child can go in a basketball game and play 75 minutes and get 2 points, and you're gonna be like, that's my baby. When he get in our house, I'm like, boy, if you're gonna be out there that long and don't do nothing, sit your butt down. This ain't what God birthed you to do. If God is a father, then let me tell you how he loves. Those whom he loves, he chastises. You got to understand the difference between punishment and love. Some love says, I'm not letting you get away with it. Some love says, you are better than that. Some love says, let me call you on the carpet. And if it means our relationship is a little rocky for a few weeks, then it's okay if I'm securing your future. So stop calling your husband mean and just call him a man. And when you have been born into a home where there wasn't one, you don't recognize one when you see one. So when you don't recognize a man when you haven't seen one, then the only definition of man you can come up with is the one that was given to you by somebody who came before. Most people who define men define it from their pain, not their intellect. Let me tell you something, daddy love and mama love ain't the same.
Let it play one more time.
In a basketball game and play 75 minutes and get 2 points, and you're gonna be like, that's my baby. When he get in our house, I'm like, boy, if you're gonna be out there that long and don't do nothing, sit your butt down. This ain't what God birthed you to do. If God is a father, then let me tell you how he loves. Those whom he loves, he chastises. You got to understand the difference between punishment and love. Some love says, I'm not letting you get away with it. Some love says, you are better than that. Some love says, let me call you on the carpet. And if it means our relationship is a little rocky for a few weeks, then it's okay if I'm securing your future. So stop calling your husband mean and just call him a man. And when you have been born into a home where there wasn't one, you don't recognize one when you see one. So when you don't recognize a man when you haven't seen one, then the only definition of man you can come up with is the one that was given to you by somebody who came before. Most people can define it from their pain, not their intellect. Let me tell you.
All right, so gentlemen, that throws that, I threw that out there. Gene, thank you for pulling that up for us, man. So let's he opened the door exactly for this idea of tough love and where it established for us and what we may be looking at, how we even begin to look at and identify, tough love. I can tell you right now, I was dealing with this tough love thing last week, and I had time to kind of mill over it, and I came to the conclusion that, maybe I'll change some of mine, but I ain't gonna change how I might change how I do it, but I ain't changing the path that I'm pushing. Because I'm not gonna stop pushing the path that I believe that the young person that I'm in contact with needs. Now I might not do it in the same way. Now I might, but I already see that that's happening. So we have to think about how does that work out. And I think one of the first things we really have to do is evaluate our relationship with our co-parent, the other parent, because that's where we find the problems, when it looks like we giving tough love and they giving sweet love. I'll put that out there. We give tough love, they give sweet love.
Well, me personally, I'm not really a fan of Keon.
Keon, I don't know.
Whatever. I'm not a fan of him. I don't really like, I think his preaching is too contentious. But since I'm just gonna take what he said and I'm just gonna reiterate what he said, and I'm just gonna put it back on him. He said most people love from pain, or the interaction from the pain that some man may have caused. I can tell you that just listening to his sermons alone, this revelation came to me myself. I'm like, and guess what? And men love from ego. Because when he gave the definition or the example of love, when there's a greater definition in the Bible about it, and the good thing about Keon, I love about him, is because he can depend on people not really knowing the Bible. And so he can throw something at you that fits his narrative and his satisfaction of what he's trying to project, or whatever praise, embrace he's trying to get, or what kind of manhood he's trying to really project. Because truthfully, if he wanted to give a greater example of love, if not the greatest example of love, he would have went to the love is scripture in the New Testament. But he went straight back to the Old Testament. And if you know anything about the Old Testament, the people that subscribe to the Old Testament is always trying to control something. There's nothing about them that's trying to really liberate you and what you really need to learn about the Bible. And so they'll pull something. And again, the reason they pull from the Old Testament is because the Old Testament is law-driven. It's not really love-driven. And so that scripture that he referred to is God actually talking about, guess what? Not children. He's talking about his people. You understand? But if you look at the love is scripture in the New Testament, when it says, guess what? It basically don't define nothing he just says. It said love is patient, love is kind. You understand? And it goes on, and it doesn't justify what he just said or what he just described as love. Because again, I have to question his intentions and his motives of why you would choose that scripture when it comes to love versus this scripture. And as you think like, oh, well, you know what? The love is patient and love is crying. What kind scripture? What? That doesn't appeal to men? Is that a not tougher scripture? And I think sometimes our ego, and I think it had to be a man that said, created that term tough love. Because truthfully, if you were educated, if you were truly educated and you were wise, you would know that love was tough enough. It doesn't need an adjective on it. You understand? And so that's what I'm getting at. And so most people, again, and most men, particularly when they're preaching on love or teaching on love, teach from their ego, not their pain, because we ain't went through enough pain. Oh, women haven't put us through enough pain for us, from us, or for us to teach from our pain. So ergo, we use our male privilege and teach and preach from our ego. And so, yeah, I just totally rebut that, what he just said, because again, I think it was pretty arrogant and very chauvinistic, especially when it comes to biblical and scriptural terms. So again, we don't love different because love is a universal term. It's not limited to a man or how a woman or how a child love. Love is actually universal. And it has the same exact sacrifice. And so I'll just digress right now and I'll pick back up on this later on. But again, I'm not a big fan of Keon. I think he got his, he's just under the hype and got his Shaq old baby mama and he's riding high. And so he preached just like he's riding high.
Tell us how you really feel.
I know. I was about to say that. I was saying, that's how you really feel, man.
But I think this is a greater point that to really for us to really evaluate that in this whole case, even when someone may say something, we always will have our own opinion and have our own view on how we take it. And also what they may, and it's a great example. I mean, it's no better example of Lightborn's discourse with Pastor Keon's presentation is how we need to be working as parents. We after the same thing, that love, just how we go about it, how we describe it, how we talk about it, how we interact it is what becomes some of the problem. As we normally say, it's the it's more of the parent approach that that becomes the issue, not the parents' skills, because they both have the same skills. It's what they do and how they approach those skills. But I see Gene ready to, because he got a derby hat on today. He's ready to been here.
Well, I was gonna say, with the clip, I think one thing that was missed is the fact that when he was talking about the love, right? What I think he was trying to do, but I don't think he got it across well, was the fact that the love is going to be different. We're not going to express ourselves the same as mom would. And we're going to always try to prepare our child differently than a mom would prepare her son. And I think that's what really the message that he wants to get across, but you know, I don't think it
Well,
came
Sunday,
across
man.
that way. You
It's
see what I'm
Sunday.
saying?
It's
Yeah.
Sunday. They got ties they got to pay, you know, they got to give the people. Can't give them, you got to give them the, hey, if people came, if they're going to pull out 3 times on them dollars, you got to give them a little bit more. You can't just give, you know, the 5-minute fatherhood talk presentation.
Well, no, if that's the case, if that was actually true, then he would appeal more to the women than he was trying to appeal to the men. And again, this is why I was saying that he's appealing to his own ego and what it is, what he's trying to project as I'm a man, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it could be certain evidence and certain influences, the fact that you are married to a millionaire woman, you understand that you still have to prove your manhood in that particular marriage or that relationship. Again, I'm not saying that, but that can be evident when it comes to coming across like, you know what, I'm sustaining myself, I'm sustainable as a man, I'm comfortable as a man, even though I'm married to this superstar woman. But that's just me.
Who the superstar woman he married to?
Shaquille O'Neal ex. Shawnee.
Yeah, I didn't even listen, brother. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Listen,
I didn't even know that.
I didn't even know that.
Let me tell you, and I'll tell you, when they came across, I just felt that it would be a good little piece. I didn't know who he was up until now. You just said it. To be honest with you, it's just something that came across my feed, and I heard the message, and that's what I took from it. I took from it that a father's love is always going to be different from a mother's love, and the way we handle our children will never be the same. It's going to reach the same destination, but the path there will not always be the same. And so, you know, that's how I took it. And that's what we know without knowing anything about him, without knowing his past or anything like that. So I agree that love is tough. Like Lightborn said, love is tough. And so, you know, the tough love, sometimes when a man is expressing himself or dealing with a situation, and oftentimes if it's not agreeable with the masses, they're going to look at it as, hey, you're being too tough. When it's, no, I'm not being tough, I'm preparing. Because the world is going to be tough enough. You know what I'm saying? The world's going to be hard enough on you. I just have to prepare you enough to be able to take what's happening, to take what's being dished out to you. And it's not through any harshness. And I think that's where the love part comes in, because you don't have to be harsh on someone to prepare them. You just have to be willing to teach to prepare them. Because a lot of the experience that they're going to go through in life is going to be something that you may have experienced yourself. Oftentimes, I always say this, children are just repeating the same cycle we did. They're just doing it in a different time, in a different year than we did. But everything sometimes is circular when it comes to life and you know, like they say, the circle of life. So I think when you start to talk about love and you start to talk about how it's done, I think, again, it's going to be different when it comes from a male or a female, but the end goal and the way it's perceived is what plays into a lot of people's mind.
You know, I think that if you're going to look at it biblically, men have a tendency to gravitate towards the Old Testament. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. The Old Testament is basically conditioned. And that's why God came up with the law. So by conditional, God says, if you do this, then I will do that. Okay. So during that time, it was like, we're working for something. And that's the way men are raised. Men are raised to work for something, to get a goal and to work towards that goal. And so I know I gravitate towards the law side. I don't believe in the law because I believe that Christ fulfilled the law. So there's no need for us to deal with the law. But I'm still raised with that law mentality in my mind. So to give you an example, men have a tendency, especially with their kids, to be honest. And they'll say, no, you do that, you did this, and if you don't do this, then this is going to happen to you. You know, if you don't do that, then this is going to happen to you. Women operate under a New Testament kind of context. That is, we call things that be not as though they were. And that's kind of like a more nuanced kind of New Testament kind of thinking. So, and I know I don't want to be too confusing, but for example, I might say, listen, if you don't do this, you're going to end up being a bum. You're going to end up under a bridge. Okay. My wife would say, don't say that. Don't let those words come out of your mouth, because those words that come out of your mouth, you put them in the atmosphere and then you give them life to become true.
Right.
Okay. So we kind of, I know I vacillate back and forth, and I'll say, okay, I'll try not to say those things, but you know what? If you don't do this, I'm gonna punch you in your mouth if you don't act right. You know, say. So I think the tough love from a man's perspective is one of those things where we have a tendency to tell kids how it is, and this is what these are the consequences if you don't do this. Whereas ladies, especially spouses and significant others, tend to work towards that. I'm gonna just say the best for you, and I'm praying that those types of things will become fruition in your life.
Larry, you hit it right on the head. Because, and I'm gonna tell you why, because even when I just was doing this project of father engagement to home visitors, it was a quick thing. One of the big points we pointed out is that fathers will talk to you in context of how you have to fit in the world. Moms will talk in context how the world can fit around you. And those two things are very different. Listen, if the world got to fit around you, you're gonna get, you're gonna get fuzzy, you're gonna get a nice bubble, everything gonna be good. If you got to fit in the world, so they're gonna throw your ass in the jungle with no shoes on, and you got to figure it out. Those are the two kind of ways that moms and dads will kind of communicate. And let me be clear for anybody that's gonna jump and say everybody not the same, or everybody. I'm just saying on normal. If you take a percentage of fathers, they will be thinking about the results of what this world has for their child, both their sons and their daughters, and how they need to prepare them for those things. The moms will be concerned in the other instance of how they can protect their child from these things in the world and give them this empowerment and esteem that, hey, you can make it, don't let nobody do this or do that. And dad be like, yo, if there people say you got to come to work at 7 o'clock, now you want to keep that job, you need to show up there at 6:30. Don't say, oh, this job started at 7 o'clock. My mom said, the job said it started at 7 o'clock. I only got to be at 7 o'clock. Those two different kind of messages, but those are just messages of certain experiences that I think men and women both have, and as well as, and I was talking to somebody about this really is not only just our experiences, but also our privileges. See, if you show up late as a woman to a job, maybe, and you say, oh, I had to get something with my kids, people might give that a pass. You show up to a job to do something with my kids, and a man, they done left your ass. The truck them left already. So you missed the day's work. So I just throwing just being a little bit real with you about how I got some time to work. The truck not waiting on you. So you missed that $300 today. So hey.
I'd like to comment about that word love. I personally think it's a word that has been abused. Many people use that word in different contexts. Mind you, that's based on your culture and your norm. But love really means transcend a feeling or emotion. I believe that's what it means, right? And you'll see a father talking to his child harsh and say, son, or daughter, I love you. So I personally think love is a feeling, just like anger. In fact, suicide is a feeling. All those are feelings. What we really need to talk about is expectations. When you're communicating with your child and your child is growing, we use the word love and tough love, and I agree, mothers and fathers have different ways of showing love. But what I think needs to be addressed is expectation and having clear communication with your child. The pastor just spoke about a type of love regarding a father and so forth. But we all communicate differently based on our culture, based on how we were taught, and as one gentleman said, based on the Bible. But I personally believe when dealing with a child and deal with anyone, we need to be clear. We need to be clear of our expectations and clear of our goals and do the best we can. But that word love is used. I personally believe it's used in too many scenarios. And tough love is a term, but I'm not. Can I say I'm not feeling the tough love? If you get what I mean. But I just want to put that out there. Expectations, good communication, it goes a far way with your child, because disciplining your child and using those words, the child may not even know what that means. So let's be clear about what our expectations are and how we can work together for a common goal. That's my thought.
Hey, Ron, I want to ask you, what do you mean that you're not feeling the tough love? What that mean?
Because the tough love is the word tough, meaning that, okay, tough mean, in my opinion, it's the opposite of love. It's what is tough love? We talk about love is an emotion and feeling, but so we put a word to it and say tough love. Explain to me what is tough love and how did we get to that word?
So tough love, right? For me, and I think it's used when you say that the person's being a little bit more direct, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat what I'm telling you. I'm going to say it like it is. And I'm going to just gonna give it to you raw. So a lot of times people say that is tough love. You see what I'm saying? So I agree with you, Rohan, when you say, the love is dependent on a lot of those variables that you said. It depends on your background, your culture, the way you grew up, how you view what love is. All this is part of that, right? But I think in the general terms of speaking, when they talk about the tough love, they're talking about you not babying, someone. You just telling them, hey, look, like if I would be like, yo, I'm gonna give Ron some tough love, man. I don't think you should be doing this. And here's why. And I just tell him to it straight. That's tough love. And that's what someone would deem tough love, where they would pull me to the side and say, hey, man, I don't think you should have said it that way. There's a better way to say it to get your message across. And so that's the difference between tough. That's what I feel that they mean when they say tough love.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. To me, like I said, tough love is just honest from your perspective. You're being, like you said, give it to them with no chase, and when you do that, also you're gonna most of the time you're gonna be the hated one out of that whole situation, because when people get offended in many cases when you start being honest with them, and I'm talking about especially when you run into some 50.
Did you freeze, LJ?
I think LJ froze up.
I think he got froze up. Go
ahead, Lightborn. You wanted to say something?
No, I think the term tough love got popular on the Judge Mathis show. That was his go-to when dealing with certain defendants or whatever the case may be. And again, I understand that for entertainment. You understand? But when it comes to empowerment, you understand? That's the difference between love is for empowerment, not entertainment. And so, yes, on that little 30 minutes sitcom or whatever that was, you can do that. You understand? You can do that, and because love, for the most part, it's an action. You understand? And so we need tough love, because most of the time what love really is, we don't have the time to be and do. That's our problem. And so love is patient. Love is kind. We don't have the time for that. And so you know what we did as men? We make love tough. You understand? For the sake of time. But the truth of the matter is love takes time. But love is never tough love. No, love takes time. And that's how it explains in that particular. That's why I'm surprised that he went to. I'm like, man, your greatest example of love in the Bible is in Hebrews and not in the New Testament. Something is fundamentally wrong with that. And that's what made me question the intentions of his intelligence when he did teach what he taught. But again, I study the Bible, so I can't hold it against for nobody who don't. And that's the thing about church. Because it's so female dominated. And notice that it's female dominated, but it's female cultivated and male dominated.
Right.
Right.
Let me say that. Female cultivated and male dominated. So and the women just follow any old Joe Schmo, especially if you're a halfway decent looking guy like this dude. And so that's all I'm saying. We have to just say it for what it is. Why do we need tough love? Because I'm like, it's short and it's quick. Because men, that's our attention span. And love should be a cultivation of vision, not a dictatorship of a person's decision. Somebody gave you time, and most of the time, most of us are raised by single parents. Our parents gave us the time to get to where we need to be. And we owe it to ourselves and society, and particularly our children, right? To give the same amount of time for their change as others gave ours. Other than that, what type of love are you giving? Because you damn sure ain't gave the love that was given to you. So I don't want to hear all that tough love crap. I'm gonna challenge that every step of the way, because especially with Judge Mathis, I love him as an individual, as a person, as a black man. But I'm like, hey man, you had the same amount of whatever, and the same amount of trouble, and the same amount of time that was given to you to get your behind out of that trouble onto that bench. And the fact that you have to say, okay, tough love, but you couldn't articulate the kind and the patient love that really got you to where you at, there's something is wrong with that. And I think that needs to be rethought.
Well, you know what?
Well, I think you hit it.
Oh, go ahead, Gene.
Oh, I was gonna say I'm gonna do a little pushback on what Lightborn said, because I don't think it's the fact that you don't have the time. I think you don't have the words. I think a lot of times men aren't given the right words to display the emotions that need to be displayed in order for them to get that, what you said, that patience in and all that other stuff, because in some cases they weren't taught that. You see what I'm saying? We are a different generation. I'm going to say this because we have the words and we can sit there and be patient and we can sit there and be consistent. And a lot of times you have a lot of men who don't have the time who don't want to take the time, because you have the time for whatever you want to make the time for. And I truly believe that. So,
but
go ahead.
If you go historically, in some instances, you don't have time. I mean, I'm sure I'll ask my senior brothers on here. I know we look very similar with the same amount of gray hair, but I asked them to verify, because I'm young enough to be their sons. I just got a lot of gray hair. That was it also a part of our condition in this country that sometimes not have the time to really do that. You know, sometimes this idea of the time, like in life, do not go outside, son. Oh, what? Why can't you go? Don't go outside. Well, don't go outside because the Klan riding around looking for people to snatch up. Like, is there some parts of this that was put into play because of our condition and our fathers in their need to protect us had to be tough. Not that they gave tough love, but they had to be tough in what they said, and it had to be stern, because it was not just I want to be hard on you, but I want to keep my child alive. I don't want to bury my child.
No, I think that's absolutely right. You know, that a lot of times, you know, we're in a protective mode, and when the child questions you, basically you just say, because I said so. But what you really to sit down, you I know I was raised in an era where there was a huge amount of overt racism, and because of that, you take certain precautions, and you have to look at a lot of things with a jaundiced eye, and it would kind of be like if you someone brought home, if your child, whether it's a girl or a boy, if she brought someone of a different race, okay, I would look at it a lot differently than my child will look at it, because many times because they have not seen the kind of racism and the things you could do and you could not do during the time that I've been on the planet. So yeah, a lot of times we do go in protective mode, and we say no, you don't do that, and we call that tough, but it's really coming out of our experience.
But I think what it is, and I agree wholeheartedly, and I understand the experience, and I actually appreciate the experience. What I am saying is you can't give navigation without information. You understand? And so, if you're not there to protect them, will they truly be equipped to protect themselves? You understand? And so you're giving them navigation, but they don't have no real information to guess what? They empower themselves with the navigation, so that way they can protect themselves even when you're not around. And so that's the difference. And nothing wrong with that, because again, I can't fault my ancestors or our history for the disenfranchisement. You understand? That made us the disenfranchisement that caters to our empowerment. And so simply our information was like it lacked reparations. You understand? It does. And because like so many of things, in reparations, because it lacks provision and the protection that's really needed to give our children the right footing and the right protection that's needed for them to actually be in society. So I understand that wholeheartedly. I was just reverting back to the fact that I think men, we have to look internally and stop saying what we think to make law, and not question what we say, because we say tough love, and because a man said it, we don't really question it. That job, it just took off. And nobody even questioned the validity of it, that, ask a question or rhetorical question, is love tough enough? You understand? The fact that the most of the love that we benefit from, right, was tough enough. You get some Joe Schmo come by, say a fancy word, and then everybody's hijacked about it. And that's what I'm talking about, sustenance.
Hey guys, can I apologize for being late? I really am.
It's never an apology. It's always welcome.
Okay. Well, can I can I just throw a little something here from the short time I've been on here?
Hoping that I was hoping, Brother Brian, that you was gonna throw something in there. That's why I shot it off there to y'all.
Okay, because I've always said that I felt so fortunate being raised in the environment that I was raised in, and seeing the things actually take place. My parents had 14 children. 11 of the 14 were boys. Okay. And we joke about it sometimes now, because we talk about, we heard our dad raise his voice maybe 2 times in our life. Okay. And it was, I think a lot of it had to do with, we throw terms around like communities and neighborhoods and things like that. We just throw it out like it today. But there was a time where those terms really meant something. They really did. And parents were not just your biological parents, and your biological parents weren't your only parents. And I think right now, one of the greatest powers that anybody or any group can inflict over another is the power to define. And we know that for the most part, we've always had other people defining everything for us. And when someone else is defining for you, then you have to constantly be trying to adjust and adapt and fit their definition of everything. And what we have to do is realize that, no, we're the definers, and we have to set those definitions. My dad said something I remember I was a little boy the first time I heard him say it, but he said, he had told several people he was never going to visit one of his sons in prison. And guess what? He lived to be 81 years old and he never did. So I think a lot of times efforts have been made to totally dissect our communities, families, and neighborhoods. And when they are dissected, there's no telling what might go on. That's my opinion.
That's a really, I mean, listen, you know, one of the important parts, because, you know, I think, Brian, you shared something in reference to the community, right? Right now we have
Yes.
this battle about who's right, mom or dad. But when
There you
we
go.
come to that idea of the community, mom and dad is the community. And community
Right.
is one important thing community always do, come together to communicate on what's the best outcome for the people in the community.
That's
Now,
right.
I think I know what's best. I know this or I know that. Is a conversation, communication, sit down, and even some. Listen, I'm even looking, even being, you know, maybe even someone outside the box, bringing the young people into the conversation.
That's
To
right.
hear what parts they think that should happen or not happen, so they have a bigger buy-in into what the community is going to decide needs to happen going forward.
You know, we got a young person on there, so what Jay think about it?
Yeah, I want to hear that. Yeah. Mhm. If he's there. Reach out.
Jay? Jay. I thought Jay was still on there.
He probably just
Yeah, I'm at my son's basketball practice, so it's kind of loud. That's why I didn't really interact too much.
Oh, that's not a problem. But when you get the time, just explain to us what community, how you define community, what community is to you.
What I would define as community, I would define community as a circuit of individuals that come together in a unity and to make sure that everything is up to a good standard, I guess you could say. So with that being said, I mean, hold on, let me walk outside. A little bit quiet out here. Nah, but with me, what my take on community is more like I was saying, is an abundance of individuals, or it could even not necessarily even have to be individuals. It could just be a series of events that bring each other together to kind of bring unity. It's kind of hard to explain it in my perspective because I was listening, but as I said, I was a little sidetracked by the practice. So I can't really give a full, thorough explanation, but that's kind of slightly what I would say.
Well, let me see if I can sum it up for what
No,
Jay.
hold on, wait a minute, J. Rob. He was giving an awesome definition. Listen,
Yeah.
man, we were asking for your definition. Don't you worry about what we're thinking.
Right.
Give it from the best of what you not only what you receive in the community, but what you give to it. Give it from that definition. It's yours. Tell me how do Jay define community?
Well said.
Yeah, that's basically the best way that I could put it in that perspective. Like you said, it's just, I just feel like it's just a unity. That's the best terminology that I could just go around. Just unity. It could be people, it could be animals. It's just unity. Once everyone is conjoined together, I feel like that's what brings a community, or that's what will create a community.
Yeah.
That's an awesome definition, because guess what he just did, J. Rob? You're gonna love this. And I would have never saw that. This man brought in the animals, that action, and he made it inclusive of the community. And I'm thinking about so many pets in our communities that we can probably name off, and we never saw them as community. And so you really thought, that's what I mean, Jay. You just brought something to the conversation that none of us, I'm pretty sure our age, wouldn't have thought of. I would have never thought use pets as what they call it, a contributor to our communities.
You know, and it's interesting. It's interesting that he did that because even though, when they, like you said, Lightborn, when they say define a community, you think about the people and you think about their contribution, but extending it to the animals. You know how many people use pets as a coping mechanism and a healing tool? And it's interesting that you extended, like you said, extend that to what your community is, because it's a valuable tool. It's a valuable piece of the community, which gives mental stability to your community. So yeah.
That is important. Pets, I can tell you this, pets were very important in our community growing up. And we talk about it, we laugh about it now, we joke, we talk about it, because pets were very, very important. Because you go down, we would go down, we joke about it, we go down the line and we start naming Rex, Judo, Teddy, you know, the dogs in the community, cats in the community, because everything had a place to make that community what it was. And even though to some people it might not have seemed like this was a major impact, everything played a role in the stability and the overall sourcing of that community. This is who we really are. Thank y'all so much, man. I love what I'm hearing.
You know, and Brian, it's really talking about some of the normalization we need. You know, after you have so much narratives of what you are and what you aren't, but you see the mainstream idea of what people saying is happening, and then you are able to have those same things in your own way. See, I always look at, you know, when we talk about us as a people, everything we had in the place that we was, but we had it our own way. You know,
there you go.
And it's important to remember that for our own empowerment, that we had things our own way. We didn't wait on other people to have them. We had them in our communities already. We had dogs, just like they had dogs, but our dogs was a lot more for petting and taking care of and cuddling. And actually, we probably started the emotional, the emotional pets. We probably the people who started that emotional service animal business, because we probably was needing that. I'm sure at the time you think about, listen, you think, man, it's so rough out here. Look, this dog come up and rub and give me some love, and give me some hope, and make me his master, or the person that takes care of him. When in many instances we sometimes felt like we needed people to take care of us. So it's one of them great empowerment tools.
Ron, again, and that's why that other generation. And listen, Jay had a basketball game. We gave him an impromptu question to dig deep down inside as a Gen Z and give us an honest answer. And he gave us an answer that, guess what? And again, I could be a little jealous about it too, because I was an answer I wish I would have gave, you know. But guess what? You're not called to think about everything. And when he gave the answer, I can truly appreciate that answer and actually add it to my repertoire, because I'm like, man, I've heard community explained on so many levels, but I've never heard that. And I'm 52, well, I'm 51 years old now, I'll be 52 in December, and I've never heard that. And so that's why, and Jay, I'll tell you this, man, don't take your answers for granted and don't sleep on what you know, man. That's why you're in this conversation. God got you here for a purpose. And thank you for that answer, man, because that really opened up a section of my mind that was probably still closed.
You know, something, Lightborn, you sparked something in me that I definitely want to put into play. And I think this is a powerful thing that you're giving Jay that, but I think it's important for people who watch this and understand why we even do this. And a big part of this is fathers have to start defining who they are for themselves, right? And by Jay answering that question, he defined for himself what he believed. He doesn't now have to go, because what initially happened, I got to figure out what answer other people gonna say for me to be a father, or how I should be a father. And that may not fit for you as the person or the situation or the world that you're living in. So we have to begin to really define for ourselves what that fatherhood looks like. A mom might say, well, this is what I want the father to do, and you ain't doing that, so you're not a father. Well, listen, you don't know, as the man that I am in this world, what it takes to be this man. Oh, you can go get a job. Don't work. You get a job 5 minutes. Well, you can go get a job in 5 minutes. I go to the job. I ain't got no felonies. I got degrees. I got everything. And people tell me, well, we have some positions, but we kind of already filled them. And you hear things like that over and over and over and over again. So what happens is now my esteem, my worth begins to affect me. And then I say, I ain't a good father because I can't get the job that my child's mother or my wife can get. No, it's not, because you define the father that you are. Don't let anybody else. Now, they will validate your fatherhoodness. That's the other part. That these people around you, your children, your partner, your child's mother, your people around will validate your definition of fatherness and how you believe to be a father, because it gotta be validated from somewhere. You can't just say, well, I listen, I slept with all the women in my neighborhood and that made me the super father. And I do it how I want to do it. And I got 28 kids and I like it, and I'm gonna have 28 more. Well, yeah, you are a certain kind of father, but some of them 28 kids might tell you that, father, I don't got enough of your love, and that means TIME. Because you can only see so much of us. It's only 24 hours in a day, and you already got 28 of us. And you say you want 28 more. So you, hey man, you look at
Say
you
that
looking
again.
at
How you spell love?
TIME.
TIME. That's right. That's right.
Good evening, Mr. Thomas.
Even, and I just want to add a quick one to
Good
Thomas.
evening. I am fighting with this with my phone and these ads. I have gotten over 100 and some ads on my phone, and I'm trying to get rid of it. That's why I'm late. But go ahead, Rehan.
Yes, we mentioned community, and we see many times where different values clash with a child. We see parents fighting over children. He mentioned earlier, being parents with communities working together for a common goal. And many times we see people are competing. You'll hear one parent say, you know what, I do more than you. Or you hear another parent, oh, you're gonna show up, but you didn't do the work. Again, parenting is not a competition. It is a community. It's working together for a common goal. And too many times we hear parents talking about, oh, I'm in control, and I hear I'm the mom and I'm the dad. It's community. It's working together for a common goal for the child. We see many values change today in the society, and we're hoping that it gets better in the future. But that's the goal to any father, to any mom. It is community working together to grow a child, to make a child be part of both of you, and to fly out of the nest at some point and flock their wings. That's my thought on community.
But I was thinking about I'm sorry, Brian, you want to say something?
No, I'm okay.
Oh no, I saw your camera shift. Thought you were getting ready to crank up. Well, no. What I was thinking about as just referring back to the topic of tough love, I was thinking about, and now I have to do what Jay did. I have to project from my own experience and how I define it. Like you just spoke about, Ron, about how tough love for me was when I was out of work. I had just got married to my wife, and I was out of work. I had like a little drought spell where I was out of work long enough to be divorced. That kind of work. That's when you know you're out, when you're out of work, divorced, and long enough for it to mess with your marriage. And I can remember, what is true. What do you want me to say?
No, I just calculated what you said. That's all. So
I'm out of work. And I know, and again, I ain't worrying about the naysayers, because they're going to be there regardless. Whether I'm doing good, bad, or indifferent, I know they're going to be there, so I don't acknowledge them, because that doesn't shape the narrative of my relationship. But what did shape the narrative of my relationship, and what was tough, was the fact that my wife displayed everything that love's supposed to be to get me to the love that I needed to be for her, right? And so remember I told you about the scripture that said love is patient, love is kind, it's all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And so and remember I told you it's an action. And so because she displayed that, I'm talking about not in words, but just in straight action with a level of humility, I just took it upon myself. And it just goes with the historical culture and the historical harm. I took it upon myself to abuse myself. Not she wasn't doing it. I abused myself for what I wasn't for her, or what I wasn't to her at that particular time, because of what I didn't have. And then some clairvoyance came, and a time of peace, after you finish warring with yourself and fighting with yourself, some said, simple stuff like, why don't you go ahead and go home and cook dinner before you get home? And so now all of a sudden I started developing jobs for myself. And so now, while I'm out of work, I will make sure I'm timing, okay, I'm on job search from this time to this time, and then looking for other opportunities from this time to this time. And at this particular time, I got to get home to make sure everything is ready. So when she get off from work, that the kids, and we'll have a dinner for her and the kids when they get there, and then all she have to do is take a bath, blah, 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 and that's it. You understand? And so when we talk about tough love, we always talk about it from a more macho sense, right? Then the really humane sense that I think men are really scared of, because it takes a certain level of humility to really be human. Again, let me say it takes a level of humility to be human. That's why human starts with hue, because that hue stands for humility in a man. That's human. And so with that, I got a crash course that actually shaped me into being not just a better husband, but a better man. And I guess what, a contributor even on this particular platform, because I hadn't learned that particular discipline when we talk about who thou lovest, thou chasing. You understand? Yes, chasing is just a fancy word for discipline. And it was that time of being down that developed a certain level of discipline in me. You understand? And that corrected me, or not even corrected me, but conditioned me, or reconditioned me rather, from top to bottom, from the husband I was, from the father I was, blah, 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 blah. And so that's just one of the tough aspects. If we're going to say tough love is really a thing, then we got to talk about the tough times that it takes to really love each other.
That word love, we look at how we express it tonight and how we communicate. It's really a feeling and emotion. It has depth. I can say that much.
Yeah, I think that, when you talk about tough love, especially tough love for our kids, what we're trying to do, I can only speak personally. What I'm trying to do is trying to get my child to reposition themselves and to receive opportunities. And more than anything else, when some people may call it criticism, but I like to call it guidance, and they're not going to always agree, and and everyone's going to have their way. But my main point in actually saying anything at all is because they, like the pastor did say, if you express love many times by chastening them, and chastening not necessarily doesn't have to be physical. It can be mental. It could be emotional. It can be spiritual. But what you're trying to do is just reposition that person to put them in the best place that they can receive an opportunity.
I agree.
But see, that's the thing. When we so-called chasing them, then, and I often feel this, and I'm like, listen, our parents did the best they can. And even me as a father, I wonder when we whoop or beat our children, you understand? And I always thought about this one thought. I'm like, okay, when you beat them, right? What are you instituting? Like, what are you putting on them when you beat them? Are you building them enough to be where you want them to be? Or are you breaking them from being who they're called to be? And sometimes, because if I remember right, even during slavery, they beat us to break us. And so which part of that psychology do we put on our kids? And that may have been unconsciously put on us when we were beaten. What was beaten out of us? What was sacrificed when we got beat? And so, yes, we did what mama told us to say, but then again, slaves did what the master. You understand? You understand? See the psychology of beating? We did what mama told us to do, but then again, that's how slaves did what the masters told them to do. And so how do we protect our kids to build them at the same time without breaking them? And then what portion, and again, and this is psychology that has to be studied, but what portion of our kids was broken? You understand? To the fact that we could have had more entrepreneurs than we got workers. Did that historically break our kids enough that we have more workers than we got entrepreneurs? And was that the threat in the first place, to know that the institute of beating was to do more breaking than actually building? If that makes any sense.
It makes excellent sense. And I think that this is, you know, as we're having this conversation, and I think that this is a great opportunity. We were talking about this idea of what tough love is, but I think we really re-evolved this conversation on, is it really tough, or is it just love? Or is it an expression of love, of how we express our love? Because the words sound pretty tough, and that's why Rohan didn't like it. The word tough love, you know, he want cuddly things, soft. He want to rub them together. If we look at this in another instance of saying it's just on how we're going to express our love, how we're going to show our love, what that love looks like, and where and how and where it manifests itself from. Because tough love can be in many times abusive. It can become abusive. It can become something that hurts our children. So we don't want to get it confused. We don't want to be, you know, make it look as if, hey, we're just talking tough love. We need to have tough love. Why tough love? We want to really get, you know, kind of dissect this idea and understand that we're using a word to describe something, but we're really looking at the foundations on how to do it and how you can probably experience it or experiment with it for yourself with your own children and with your own family and with your own community. So that's one of the big things I think that's most important here that we're kind of talking about today. And I always love to try to wrap us in bows and put us in fancy places. So we just don't look like because we can get gangland on here, man. We start getting savage and take it anywhere. We take it up, down, all the way around. But what we really want to be able to do is give people a good package of something for them to think about, for them to be able to maybe even have these conversations with their partners, with their own fathers, with their own children, you know, with whoever they might not be able to have this conversation to kind of better themselves as a father, to develop who the father they want to be and how they want to be it. And that's what the think tank is all about. It's really about how do we bring conversation together? How do we bring the fathers and the people who have the experience to absolutely share them with you, and as well as each. Let me tell you something. Nobody on here is experts. We all got jobs and we do something, but we're not experts. What we do here in this capacity is we're getting the services with each other ourselves. So, because everybody still should be working on being a better father. You know, and if you're not trying to be a better father, just be a better parent.
Say that again.
Huh?
Say that again, Dr. Ron.
Everybody still be working on being a better father.
No
matter if your children is 59 or 9.
All right now.
Because we never know, and this goes into my, you know, I'm back get on my little soapbox. We do not ever stop being important to our children, and our children never stop being important to teach us.
That's right. That's right.
Old dogs need to learn new tricks. but you can't learn unless you got something new to refresh you.
I tell you, I hear you. And I get that from my children who are both in their 40s, and they're still, Dad, did you think about this? That I would have handled it a little bit this way. So I'm still learning, and and as I talk with my daughter and my son and our 7 grandkids, and each day, each week, I would say there's something I learned. So yes, we old dogs have to learn new tricks.
Absolutely. But we
Yeah,
got the experience that we need. We can listen. Once we learn their tricks, the psychology of us being smart is once we learn their tricks, they'll be willing to listen to our experience.
Amen. Amen, brother. Amen.
I have
to what Lionel said earlier, in terms of disciplining your kids or beating them or whatever, I think for me, now that I think back on it, I was disciplining my kids mainly out of my own frustration with them, and I was just expressing it in a physical way. When I think back, I really wasn't trying to make them better. I was expressing my frustration with them, number one. And also what I was doing is that I was expressing my fear for them, because when they act in a certain type of way and you discipline them like that, it's you don't want anything worse to happen to them, and so I know now that I think about it, I was thinking I'm doing this for you, but now that I think about it, I really wasn't. I was doing it for me, but the part that I was doing for them was just fear that nothing worse would happen to them later on down the road.
I agree with you, Lon. I know that with me, and I was disciplining. I was actually spanking my son at one time. And my little girl came and said, "Daddy, stop, stop, stop." That I caught myself and realized what I was doing. And I stopped. And I came back and apologized to my son as well as my daughter. Said, "Daddy was wrong. And Daddy's sorry."
That's amazing, and I'm glad you guys could. Because that's, you know what? Thanks a lot, LJ, because we're on the same wavelength. Because I was getting ready to do some confessing, and you just beat me to the confession. I was getting ready to confess myself, and I tell you this. Well, I don't have to tell you because you guys know my personality. I wear it on my sleeve, but I didn't had to beat my kids much, because just the threat of I will, and it's guaranteed if you cross certain lines. They knew that getting a whooping was inevitable for certain things. But I tell you this, I think my methodology now, today that my kids are older and they're adults, I think my methodology still resonate with them now. And yes, it may have benefited me in rearing them, right, and raising them. But I think it hurt me in my relationship. And here's a father who was actually there. You understand? And actually did all the fun things with them. They never had to ask. They never had to ask to go to Disney World. They never had to ask to go to Busch Gardens. They went to every theme park in Orlando and some in Georgia. But they never had to ask. I'm talking about straight 2 vacations a year, one hot, one cold, blah, 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 blah. But I still had that intimidation about me. That you're talking about 7 kids, that all 7 kids, mine plus the children of my wife, all of them shared the same intimidation factor. And so again, it benefited me in rearing them, which means that I didn't have too much conflict out of them when they were still minors. But now I think it hurt me more in my relationship with them because I'm not going to get the Elder Thomas and the teeny and the types of response and relationships and camaraderie that they have with their children. Not saying that they don't love me, you understand? But I think a lot of the intimidation of what I didn't say actually still resonate with them. And I don't think they think there's a open avenue, you know, and I'd have to actually get it from them, but I don't think we have that diplomacy. You know what I'm saying? They don't feel like they're my equal enough to actually have a human conversation with me as opposed to a father-child conversation.
Interesting.
And that's my confessions.
Confession, right? I would say also as a father, you know, I grew up in a culture where beating was the norm. You know, discipline was used with a belt, and both at school and at home. And I've always said I never wanted to do that with my children. And by coming into the fatherhood program and learning some of the skills sets, I find communicating has worked best for me. And that's why I talk about this Fatherhood Think Tank. It's such a golden nugget that to help fathers and mothers too to sometimes reset. And I'm using that in the word reset. Just stop, reset. Let's see if I'm doing this right, and to start over. Again, the goal is to teach, and teaching is hard. It's tough, and we do get frustrated along the way. We do. In some cases, many people take out their feelings onto the child. But remember this, and I've always said this. There's a song, I don't remember the song, but there's a song talking about where it's an old song where the child, the father said to the child, I'm not available. I can't talk to you, son. I can't talk to you right now. And apparently the son grew up and the father called the son and said, son, I want to talk to you. And the son said to the father, Dad, I don't have the time to talk to you right now. So I think the best thing is to spend time with your child, a text, a WhatsApp, a chat, and do whatever you can to keep that communication going. Because
I know what song you're talking about.
What song is that?
I'm talking about Cats in the Craters and the Silver Spoons.
Here we go.
The boy blue and the man on the moon. I know that song very well.
Cat Stevens, one of my favorites.
Yes, I know exactly what song he was talking about.
Yeah, Dad, we'll talk soon. I remember that song too.
So being an old school song.
They were around with them old songs. They play back in Jamaica. They playing them old songs in Jamaica.
That's right. That's right.
So I want to end the night with another video, and just to share some information with people who may be watching, especially if you're in Florida, to think about what is very beneficial. A house bill that has been established to help you fathers with your shared time. So if you're interested in that shared time, you want that shared time. But let's keep it real. Let's make it 100. I was helping somebody who wanted to do a parenting plan, but it seemed like his mom wanted to do it more than he wanted to, right? And I was telling the mom, don't you fill this out for him, because it'll come back to bite him, because all the stuff he's saying he got to do, once he get the mother to sign it, it's a legal document. And he don't do the stuff, the mom can go and utilize that same document you're trying to get involved with your kid and try to get some rights. It's the same one that's gonna get her to say, you're not serious about your rights. You violated all the things in the parenting plan. So let me show that video let me show this video really quick, and then we're gonna get out of here with our chant.
Right here.
That I, as one of the parents, should have 50-50 time sharing. Burden now shifts to the other side to say, prove it wrong, that 50-50 is not in the best interest of the child. Biggest change I've probably seen in the time sharing laws in the greater part of my career. Custody has just changed forever in the state of Florida. House Bill 1301 just passes and drops. There's now a presumption that 50-50 is in the best interest of the minor children. Why is that huge? Because usually in the state of Florida and most jurisdictions, you don't talk or start with a presumption. You build evidence to why you want to get there. Here you walk in court with no evidence that it's presumed that I, as one of the parents, should have 50-50 time sharing. Burden now shifts to the other side to say, prove it wrong that 50-50 is not in the best interest of the child. Biggest change I've probably seen in the time sharing laws in the greater part of my career. Custody has just changed forever in the state of Florida.
Let me say that I'm just going to say this one thing, and this is a message right here onto this video, and I just want to read it. It says, my main concern about this is when an unfit parent is automatically given 50% custody, when in fact they should have less or none. The courts don't care about the well-being of the children, a child. This has more to do with money than anything. Wake up, people. And I want to get some of you guys a quick opinion about that statement, because I see that statement in multiple ways. I see it in a couple ways. I just want to hear what some of you guys might say about it.
Well, I can see both sides of it. I think fathers should, if you're going to get an obligation, a financial obligation, you should get a time sharing obligation as well. So I'm never against that. But again, I think it should have come. I think they can tweak that law better, because it can't be a what I'm going to say. It can't be a tool for manipulation.
Right.
And see, so we know time sharing actually, if it does affect child support. So to that young lady's point, she is correct. You can manipulate the child support instituted on you just based on the type the time sharing that that you claim to have, even though you may have not spent no time with that particular child, but doesn't say we won't try to manipulate the situation to use it. And so I can understand her fact, and as a matter of fact, she would have a lot of evidence to back that up. On the other end of it, I think that again, if they're going to institute a financial obligation or a financial relationship with you and your child, then it should come comboed or standard with a time sharing relationship with your child. You shouldn't have one without the other. And that's where the injustice happened a lot for fathers, because they got access to one and didn't get access to the other. So that was unfair within itself. So it can be tweaked, but I think it needs to be tweaked on both sides for more wisdom and more clarity.
Right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would like to a quick comment on that.
Yeah, I know you do.
When it comes to children, again, time is love, right? That's what we discussed earlier. If the courts look at the scenario where you have to prove yourself to be a father, which I think that was the old system, and if this what you just show that you're going into court under the guise of 50-50, and you have to prove why the other party don't get 50-50. It shows that it's changing in the right direction. We know that many homes don't have fathers. I talk to many mothers, and I talk to many fathers who are not in their child's lives. And if this is going in that direction, where we can get both parties to put in some time with their children, I would unanimously support this move, and I hope it would apply to fathers who are unwed, and allow and have fathers to play a more positive role in their children's lives.
Yeah, Rohan, actually that bill is exclusive. It's not exclusively, but it's really set up for non-marital fathers. It's for fathers who can prove the paternity of their child. When they go into court, it's no more this thing of saying you got to prove that you deserve to get 50% of the time with the kid. If you are the father, the parenting plan needs to be established for you to spend the 50% of the time that you. It's not, a lot of times, as we know, the court will kind of establish that, oh, well, we're going to what they call, we're going to factor the dad into his time. So and it's funny because sometimes the dad had 100% of the time before mom and him went their separate ways. Right. And the mom said he need to pay child support and he ain't really spend no time with the kid. And so now, they're gonna say, well, we're gonna start off with, just some supervised visitation. Then see, now what we're saying is, hey, if you're a parent, if you financially responsible for that kid, you're about to be physically responsible for them. And I think that for many moms, I think that makes them to have to now, look at having to work with the fathers. And both mothers and fathers have to start working together now. Can't be like, well, I'll just keep you away so I can just deal with it my way. And the fathers can't say, oh, well, just stay away. I'll just pay the money. I don't care nothing about it. And it's not that. I think that everybody wants to have their child in their life. It's just how they get to have their child in their life is the problem. I think sometimes we don't get to have a child in life the way we want to. And I think that is where a lot of the conflict comes in these relationships and with this co-parenting and some of this parenting plan. But the parenting plan will clear that up very fast, because when you're gonna get the kid, how you gonna get the kid, how much you pay for the kid, and so on and so on. So anybody else before we get up out of here? All right, nobody else? Well, let me thank all you guys for all your thoughts and comments tonight on the think tank. It was very useful. It was a great experience for us to get together here and talk a little bit about tough love, but really look at it and the idea of how how maybe as fathers we express love. We'll be here tomorrow night on the Zoom link. You can look right however you looking at this, or however you seen this, look in the comments, look down below in the details, and you'll see how to get to the fathers only Zoom meeting tomorrow. We'll be talking about continuing this conversation, tough love, just a little bit more, maybe a little bit more explicit, and not so much for live broadcasting. But we will be there tomorrow having that. We'll see you guys again next week for Fatherhood Talks. Summer is almost over. So let me just say this to you fathers, if you haven't done so yet, take an opportunity, spend a couple of days. If you don't know where your kid is, look for them. Even if you got to just, be like a sniper and just look at them from a distance, and write it down somewhere. So, one day if you get an opportunity, you can tell your kid, I seen you this day at the park. I didn't want to cause conflict, but I went to the park and I seen you. I have it written down to that day I got to really see you and find you. I didn't want to be a stalker and follow you around, but I just wanted to see you that day and know that you was okay. With that being said, Father, repeat after me. I am a man of honor. I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of respect.
I am a man of
respect.
I say, fathers, I am. I say that you are.
You are.
I say that we are.
We are.
Championship father.
That's right.
And again, folks, thank you. Like, share, subscribe to us. Join us here next week. Hit the subscribe button and come back and join us again next week on Fatherhood Talk.
All right.
Yeah, Fatherhood Talk. The Fatherhood Think Tank.
That's right.
Think tank. All right now.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Fam.
Bring hand assassin.
Yeah.
Yes.
God bless you all, guys. God bless you all.
Y'all